Welcome to Jara Plays, where we're checking out a past free epic game, Poker Club. Before we get started, a note for viewers who may be sensitive to flashing or flickering lights. You might want to avoid this video. I updated my graphics drivers and tried to run on low and high graphics settings, but certain game elements just flicker for some reason. During editing, I will be removing as much as I can, but just a heads up to avoid any unpleasant experiences. The main menu has a few options. We're just going to keep it simple and try the PCC Tour. Any game will work. The ones on the left are for smaller chip buy-ins. Let's do mano a mano matchup. Buy-in at this table is only 1K chips. The background scenery is pretty neat. Alright, so when I first get to a table, I take it easy the first couple hands just to see what everyone's betting style is. Don't be afraid to throw a hand or two away, especially at the start. A 2-3 isn't too bad. It could lead to a straight draw. The first 3 cards on the table are called the flop. And we have an ace and a 4, so that means we only need a 5 to get a straight. Don't force large bets on something you don't have, but definitely stay in the game if it's a reasonable up bet. Sometimes it's better just to check. The turn card is number 4, and in this case it's a turn for the worse. Right now there's 3 diamonds, and if my opponent has 2 diamonds, they have a flush, which will beat the straight that I don't have. I'm going to stay in at 24 even though the pot is still small. They could only have 1 diamond, so they're looking for that flush and I'm looking for the straight. The 5th card is the river. What card can you possibly get to save your hand? This wasn't a diamond, so the flush draw has to be with 2 diamonds in their hand. I didn't get my 5 either, so I got nothing. Typically I would fold, but I'm going to choose to bluff. If you're playing someone for the first time, they're likely to call your bluff to see your style too. I shamefully turn over my cards, and this 148 chip pot goes to the other player who had a pair of queens. Alright, king 5, I got 900 in chips. I'm getting warmed up, but we're still playing it cool, so just buying in at minimum. I have a king, and the 5 is a little weak. There's 3 clubs on the board and a wide value range of cards. We're going to go ahead and stay in, and that turn card is now giving us a pair of 5s. We also have 4 clubs, so it's possible for a flush draw. We're definitely staying in this game. The river did not bring our flush. Instead, there's 2 aces on the board. That's dangerous, because if the other player has an ace, that's trips. I'm going to just check to play it safe. An 8-9 isn't going to beat my 2 pair. King-Queen, great cards. Not a matching suit, unfortunately, but we're going to go ahead and play this one. If you don't make it to the flop, you won't have a chance to win big. Just don't play a game where you're going to go all in every hand because Jonas Poker Hands is trolling by going all in as well. A 4-5-7 flop is terrible. With my 2 royal cards, I'm going to go ahead and fold here. Jack-Queen, same suit? Yeah, I'm definitely playing this one. We're not going to go crazy, but let's step up the bet just a little bit within reason. Make the other player pay to see the flop. Alright, so that's really bad, having 2 kings that outrank my cards in this hand. My opponent is becoming more brave and increasing their bet. This tells me they might have a king for trips. It's best for me to go ahead and get out of this one. After up betting, then folding, I got another achievement. A 2-7 isn't great, but we're in it to win it for now. The flop brings some 10s. The game says I have a pair, but so does my opponent. The turn is offering a 5, which still does me no good. I'm out of this one. So my buy-in of 1K is now down to 800, and my opponent is slowly pulling ahead. The next hand brings a 3 and a queen. 3 jack, also gone. I'm looking for something specific to jump back in this. King 4 isn't great, but we'll stay in for now since it's a king. We have a 3-card diamond flush draw, but that's about it. My king still trumps the queen. The 4th card turned the game in my favor with that pair of kings. Here's where some might make the mistake of dropping a huge bet and giving a tell. I'm going to play it safe with a check. The river brings a 4, and now I have 2 pair. I'm feeling incredibly strong on my hand due to the lack of a straight or flush possibilities on the board. There's no visible pairs, so I should have this one. I had one hand I didn't even look at the cards. I just up bet a little to throw the other player off. A 3-9 isn't super strong, but let's play it. My opponent is feeling really confident with a 60 chip bet. I'm going to bluff and charge extra for this flop. This could really hurt me though. Sometimes the other player will fold and then you'll get the table chips, but in this case, she's in. A 5-8-2 flop is not great with my 3-9. I should fold, but with my 200 chips on the table, I gotta stick it out if the other player is going to let me check. The turn brings a queen, and it's almost certain I've lost everything on the table. She's being nice and letting me stay in with the check. Dropping any bet on the table at this point is just a waste, so I have to bow out. A 7 ace of diamonds is a perfect setup. My opponent has 1400 and I have 600. I want my chips back, and I'm going to take a huge risk. Wow, she called. So now I'm in it. She has a 3-4, which is great for a straight draw, but weak against double diamond if I can get some diamonds to fall. The flop has granted me almost immediate victory with a pair of aces. Now, if the other player had a 2, they would beat me here. My top 5 cards are 2 aces, 2 2s, and an 8. So now after all this playtime, I'm finally 200 chips up from my initial buy-in. The other player either has something good or is becoming a little reckless and tries to upbet quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and fold. I click fold and see I had a 6 jack. Definitely not worth a 200 chip upbet before the flop. The next hand, we both race to fold. Finally getting a queen 6, I'll stay in. This flop is terrible though. As I level up to 10 via checking, the river card on this table yields me a pair of queens. I'm going to partially bluff by betting way more than I should in an attempt to buy the 120 chips on the table. After a few hands, the other player's probably itching to score a big win on me, and they may act before they calculate the odds. Well, they played it safe by folding. This could possibly mean they might see me as someone who will bet when I actually have something, and they may be more likely to fold when I'm actually bluffing. Trying our king 4 again, we have a very bad flop, but I'm going to go ahead and stay in. I'm glad I did, because the turn card brings our pair of kings. We're going to ride this one out. If my opponent has an 8-9, they've beaten me with a straight. Let's keep a small bet and see what happens. We both had kings, but 4 other cards on the table were higher than the 2 and 4 in our respective hands, so it's a split pot. The game is really leaning in my favor right now. I wind up with a lucky flush draw that's super weak with a 3 card. I'm going to go all in, which is a bad move, considering if they have a single heart card that's greater than 3, they beat me. They didn't have a flush, so they had to fold. An 8-5 offsuit is a little weak, but we're going to go ahead and go for it. The other player claps back, and I change my mind, deciding not to push my luck. Now I have a 5-8 offsuit. She's up betting, so let's go ahead and call it. A pair of 5s is the low spot on the pole. Turn card brings me 2 pair. I'll go ahead and check to play it safe though. The other player is up betting, so that could mean they have a jack. My 2 pair beats 1 pair of jacks, so let's go ahead and match it. The river is where we could lose it all. There's now a 5, 6, 7, and 8 on the board. If the other player has a 9 or a 4, they beat me. I'm going to go ahead and check just to play it safe. They're only betting 40, which possibly means that they have a jack and not the straight. This of course is just a rough estimate based on their betting style so far. My 2 pair beats their jacks. Well, I was wrong. They had nothing until the turn, which became an 8, and they were hoping for an ace on the river that never happened. Either way, I still take this pot. Now that my opponent has 200 chips, since the blinds are like 80 or so, there's only 1 or 2 hands left tops. I have to become a really aggressive bettor just to lock in the victory. This forces them to call, because if I'm buying the table and there's only 1 or 2 hands left, this is their last shot to make something of whatever cards they're dealt. It's now their 9-5 versus my 2 king. A 6 ace queen does nothing for either of us. The 10 didn't do much, but the 2 gives me a second pair. My 2 pair of 2s with a king high card definitely beats their 9 high. With a pot of 564, that brings my total chips to 2,000, doubling my entry and securing my victory as I progress into level 11. Well, 30 minutes of poker is always a great time, but that will wrap up today's episode. If you want to check out Poker Club, there are direct links to the store pages down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Jara Plays. Have fun, be safe, and catch you next time.